Imagine waking up one morning to find that oil prices have skyrocketed, the stock market is in free fall, and every major news outlet is flashing the same headline: US bombs Iran's nuclear sites. You sip your coffee, but it doesn't taste the same, because something fundamental has shifted. What we're witnessing isn't just another chapter in Middle Eastern geopolitics. It's a seismic event with direct implications for the global economy, your finances, and the future of international relations. This is not just about war. It's about markets, energy, power, and the cost of political decisions. So today we're pulling back the curtain. We'll explore why the US-Iran war matters far beyond missiles and diplomacy, and how it could reshape the financial world as we know it. A volatile history with economic ripples. To understand today's situation, we need to rewind. Since the Iranian Revolution of 1979, the relationship between the United States and Iran has resembled a roller coaster engineered by chaos itself. Iran's nuclear ambitions began quietly in the 1950s, but took a sharp turn after its war with Iraq in the 1980s. By the late 1990s, Iran had formed deals with China and Russia to develop nuclear infrastructure. This was when the red flag started waving in Washington and Tel Aviv. But here's where things turned financial. In 2006, the United Nations imposed sanctions that crippled Iran's economy. Oil exports plummeted, the Iranian rial nosedived, inflation soared. These weren't just sanctions. They were financial torpedoes aimed at the heart of Iran's economic engine. And globally, every time tensions spiked, oil markets trembled. Because Iran sits next to the Strait of Hormuz, a vital artery that carries 30% of the world's seaborne oil, conflict here doesn't stay local. It sends shockwaves to your local gas station and beyond. The JCPOA, hope and collapse. By 2015, there was a breakthrough: the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. The JCPOA wasn't just a diplomatic win, it was a lifeline for global stability. Iran agreed to reduce its uranium stockpile by 98%, cut 2/3 of its centrifuges, and allow surprise inspections. In exchange, sanctions relief worth nearly $100 billion. Markets exhaled, oil prices stabilized. Investors felt a little safer, but 2018 brought a curveball. President Trump pulled the US out of the JCPOA, reimposing brutal sanctions. Oil exports were choked again, Iran's economy withered, and investors worldwide asked the same question: is the Middle East about to blow again? Spoiler, it did. Proxy wars and financial fallout. The US-Iran conflict has rarely been a head-on confrontation. It's more like a high-stakes chess match played through proxies. Instead of tanks rolling across borders, we see influence battles raging through militia groups, drone strikes, and cyber warfare. Iran's playbook has long relied on proxy forces, like Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, the Popular Mobilization Forces in Iraq, and various factions in Syria. These groups are more than just ideological allies. They're Iran's pressure valves. When diplomacy fails or tensions rise, these proxies are activated like pawns on a battlefield that stretches across the Middle East. Each skirmish involving these groups carries heavy financial consequences. The Red Sea, the Gulf of Oman, and the Strait of Hormuz are not just war zones, they're arteries of global commerce. When missiles fly or tankers are sabotaged, insurance costs for shipping spike, oil prices jump, and markets panic. Even minor skirmishes can lead to billions in losses globally. The US, for its part, has weaponized sanctions, economic pressure, and control of the global financial system. In 2019, when the Trump administration designated Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, as a terrorist organization, the message was clear: economics would be the new battleground. What followed were cyber attacks, oil tanker bombings, and retaliatory strikes that jolted financial markets. This shadow war has proven just how intertwined geopolitics and finance have become. Every confrontation sends oil prices surging, devalues regional currencies, and creates panic in emerging markets. A single tweet from a world leader or a grainy video of a missile launch can shift billions in global investments. In today's world, finance isn't just a consequence of war. It's one of its most powerful weapons, the 2024 to 2025 flashpoint. Jump to the present, and the smoldering tension between Iran and its adversaries finally exploded. In June 2025, Israel launched a massive, coordinated strike on key Iranian military and nuclear infrastructure, including the highly fortified sites at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. The strike wasn't just military, it was symbolic. It struck at the core of Iran's regional ambitions. Iran's response came quickly and predictably. Ballistic missiles rained down on Israeli and U.S. military installations, while Iran's network of proxy forces stirred unrest across the region. But the real explosion wasn't just military, it was financial. At the center of the crisis lies the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway through which 20 million barrels of oil pass every single day. It's the lifeblood of the global energy market. When the conflict intensified and Iran hinted at possible disruptions in the strait, global oil markets didn't wait for confirmation. Prices surged by 25% in mere days. Panic set in among energy-importing nations. Gasoline prices spiked. Airlines slashed routes. Shipping firms rerouted vessels at higher insurance premiums. For countries still recovering from post-COVID inflation, this was a nightmare scenario. Central banks faced a cruel dilemma: raise interest rates to cool inflation and risk recession, or hold steady and watch inflation spiral. Neither choice is good. What makes this flashpoint so dangerous isn't just the conflict itself, it's the chain reaction. Your grocery bill is higher because wheat is transported using oil. Your electricity bill? Upper. Your retirement account? Shaky. Markets hate uncertainty, and war breeds it like wildfire. The 2024 to 2025 flashpoint isn't just a regional issue. It's a global macroeconomic crisis. From Wall Street to small-town wallets, everyone is feeling the aftershocks of missiles that may have landed thousands of miles away. Market behavior. During conflict, let's talk patterns. Historically, geopolitical instability sends certain sectors soaring and others plummeting. Defense stocks, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, they thrive during tension. Oil giants like ExxonMobil and Chevron, they see windfall profits as prices surge. Gold? Always the "I'm scared" asset. Investors flee to its perceived safety. On the flip side, airlines, tourism, and even tech sectors often see a dip. War is uncertainty, and uncertainty is an investor's worst nightmare. The ripple effects? Pension funds adjust their risk profiles. Venture capital slows. Emerging markets suffer capital flight. Even crypto, seen by some as a hedge, experiences wild volatility as traders flip-flop between fear and greed. The dollar, oil, and the weaponization of currency. Here's where it gets even more interesting. The US dollar isn't just a currency, it's a weapon. Sanctions are modern-day siege warfare, and they depend on America's control over SWIFT banking systems, dollar clearing, and global finance. Every time the US sanctions Iran, the message is clear: obey or get cut off from the global financial bloodstream. But there's a catch. Overusing sanctions forces countries like Iran, Russia, and even China to explore alternatives. We've already seen bilateral trade agreements bypassing the dollar. Central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, are being developed as backup systems. So while the US might win the immediate battle, it could be weakening its long-term financial dominance. Remember, Rome didn't fall in a day. It crumbled slowly from internal decay and external resistance. The Strait of Hormuz, the financial throttle point. Let's zero in again on the Strait of Hormuz. Think of it as the financial jugular of the planet. If Iran decides to choke it through mines, drone attacks, or blockades, it wouldn't just hit oil tankers. It would hit everything that depends on energy: agriculture, manufacturing, transport. A complete blockade would cause oil to skyrocket to $150 per barrel or more. Airlines would ground flights, shipping rates would multiply, inflation would spiral. We saw a glimpse of this when Iran downed a US drone in 2019. Now imagine that at 10 times the scale. Could this lead to a financial crisis? Short answer: yes, and it could happen faster than we think. The current trajectory of the US-Iran conflict holds the potential to ignite a global financial crisis unlike anything we've seen before. Unlike the 2008 meltdown triggered by mortgage defaults, this one would be driven by geopolitical chaos. It's not just about bombs or borders, it's about a cascading chain of economic disruption. First, oil prices. Any sustained threat to the Strait of Hormuz, even the suggestion of closure, sends oil prices skyrocketing. We're talking $150 per barrel or more. That alone could tip fragile economies, especially in Europe and Asia, into full-blown recessions. To combat soaring energy-driven inflation, central banks might hike interest rates aggressively. But here's the catch: many economies are still wobbly post-COVID. Higher rates could choke off investment, kill consumer demand, and lead to mass layoffs. As fear takes over, stock markets would bleed. Investors would rush to offload riskier assets and retreat into safe havens like gold, US Treasury bonds, and the Swiss franc. Emerging markets would see massive capital flight, while major indices could fall into bear market territory. Global trade? Slowed. Supply chains? Jammed. Companies would slash spending and hoard liquidity. Consumers would cut back sharply. Governments would face a brutal choice: protect citizens through subsidies and stimulus, or defend their currencies from collapse. In short, unchecked escalation could spark a perfect financial storm, one triggered not by credit defaults but by cruise missiles and closed oil routes. The long-term outlook: rebuilding trust or radicalization? Let's look beyond the fire and smoke. What happens after the bombs stop falling? Optimists hope for regime moderation in Iran, that a battered economy will shift priorities from ideology to pragmatism, that a new deal will be reached, that the strait will remain open and peace will prevail. But pessimists point to history. War rarely softens regimes. Often, it radicalizes them. Think Saddam's Iraq after 1991. Think Russia after 2014. Iran, isolated and scarred, could double down. Pursue nuclear weapons in the shadows. Partner more deeply with China and Russia, and retaliate through cyber warfare, terrorism, and asymmetric conflict, which means financial markets may have to price in a new normal, a world where the Middle East remains a perennial wildcard. So, what does this all mean for you? It means that conflict on the other side of the world can shrink your retirement account, inflate your grocery bill, and send your fuel costs into orbit. It means that peace isn't just a moral issue, it's a financial necessity. And it means we all have a stake in how our leaders wield power, sign treaties, or launch missiles. If you found this breakdown helpful and want more insight into how global events impact your money, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Because in a world this chaotic, understanding the money trail is the first step to protecting yourself. Stay informed, stay alert, and stay financially conscious. Thanks for watching.